So let us first talk about the diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. Now, before we go into diagnosis per se, first we'll be talking about the most important thing which has already been asked in super specialty exam, that is the diagnostic criteria. There is a proper diagnostic criteria given. First I'll define the criteria, then we will move into the details and individual aspects of the criteria I'll be dissecting out. So to make the diagnosis of cystic fibrosis, two things have to be fulfilled, and both of them have to be fulfilled. It is not that one out of them should be present. So what are the two things? First, there should be a clinical picture compatible with cystic fibrosis. So there should be a clinical picture which is compatible with cystic fibrosis, as well as there should be a laboratory evidence of dysfunction in the CFTR. So there should be lab evidence of CFTR dysfunction. So what are the diagnostic criteria which are included in the clinical picture which is compatible? So there can be either any clinical features suggestive of cystic fibrosis. They can be either respiratory, or there can be GIT features, or there can be genitourinary features, or the patient is there is history of cystic fibrosis diagnosed according to this criteria in one of the sibling. So in a sibling there is a diagnosed case of cystic fibrosis. Or thirdly, if there is a positive newborn screening test. As we shall see, the newborn screening test for cystic fibrosis is very different from the screening test of sweat chloride which is done in older children and adults. So any one out of these three, either clinical feature the patient himself or herself is having of cystic fibrosis, or there is a history of proven cystic fibrosis in one of the siblings, or there is a positive newborn screening test for cystic fibrosis. Any one out of these factors, if it is present, that is one essential criteria fulfilled. Plus, on the other hand, there should be something out of lab evidence of CFTR dysfunction. So here also we have three criteria. Either there should be two abnormal positive sweat chloride tests, two positive sweat chloride tests done on 2 different days. We know that for older children and adults, the screening test of choice is sweat chloride test, where you check for the amount of chloride in sweat and after doing pilocarpine iontophoresis, and if the amount of chloride in that sweat sample is more than 60 milliculones per liter, that is suggestive of CFTR dysfunction. So if there are two tests performed on 2 separate days, they are found to be positive, that is considered to be a criteria fulfilling lab evidence of CFTR dysfunction. Or in case you find that there are 2 CFTR gene mutations, a single mutation may or may not be associated with cystic fibrosis. A wide variety of CFTR mutations have been described. Many of them are actually phenotypically silent also. So if there are 2 CFTR gene mutations, these gene mutations should have been shown to be associated with cystic fibrosis as per the database. Or you are able to show a abnormal nasal potential difference measurement. Even a single value of abnormal nasal potential difference measurement will be suggestive of CFTR dysfunction. So any one out of these three plus any one out of these three, if both the criteria, one criteria out of clinical picture compatible and one criteria out of CFTR dysfunction is present, you make the diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. This is how you make the diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. This is very important and has already been asked in MCQs in the super specialty exam. Let us move further and talk about the details of individual investigations that we have just discussed. The first thing we'll be discussing is sweat chloride test. Sweat chloride test is considered to be a screening test for cystic fibrosis. As you can see here, they can show you a picture and ask you which test is being performed. This is sweat chloride test which is being performed here. I'll come to it in some time. So what are the key points that you should first of all know? Sweat chloride test is considered to be the screening test for cystic fibrosis in the post-neonatal age. It is not useful as a screening test in the newborn, but it is the screening test for cystic fibrosis in the post-neonatal age. For the purpose of doing sweat chloride test, we always perform pilocarpine iontophoresis using an electric current, and using the drug called as pilocarpine, we make the sweat glands produce sweat. So as you can see, these are the two terminals in the picture. You can see this is one terminal, this is the second terminal. Usually it is performed on the forearm, volar aspect of forearm, and we pass a small amount of electric current through it, and there is an application of pilocarpine which is done. It pushes pilocarpine into the sweat gland area and ensures that increase in the amount of sweat is produced. Then that sweat is collected in this kind of a sponge like thing which is also attached in the similar area. In between this it is usually attached, and this is used for collecting the sweat. After collection of sweat, we check for how much is the amount of chloride present in the sweat. So what is the interpretation? You perform pilocarpine iontophoresis, you collect sweat which is produced because of that, and check for its chloride levels. So there can be three types of interpretations. If sweat chloride level is equal to or more than 60 millicoulomb per liter, it is considered to be a positive sweat chloride test. So it is a positive screening test. Likely cystic fibrosis is present. We are not sure, but likely it is present. If the sweat chloride level is between 30 to 59 millicoulomb per liter, that is called as a borderline test. It may be positive, it may be negative. And if the value is found to be less than 30 millicoulomb per liter, it is called as a negative sweat chloride test. According to the latest guidelines given by Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, which are also mentioned in Nelson as well as Harrison, they clearly say that sweat chloride less than 30 millicoulomb per liter, provided the test has been performed according to the protocol, which obviously is a technical thing, it is unlikely that the patient is having cystic fibrosis. So cystic fibrosis in these patients is highly unlikely. Having said that, you must keep in mind that sweat chloride test is not a definitive test, because there can be significant number of false positive tests and significant number of false negative tests related to sweat chloride. So what are the causes of false positive sweat chloride test? There is a huge list which is given, it is mentioned in Nelson also. I'll be discussing those causes in a sequential manner, and the points which have been asked directly or indirectly in the past, I have made them bold with a different color, so that you are able to identify that these have already been asked in the past. So false positive sweat chloride test, what does it mean? Sweat chloride test is positive, yani ki sweat chloride is more than 60 millicoulomb per liter, but the patient does not have cystic fibrosis. That is called as false positive. So it will be seen in eczema, that is atopic dermatitis in case of young children. It will be seen in anorexia nervosa, it can be seen in autonomic dysfunction, it can be seen in adrenal insufficiency, it can be seen in congenital adrenal hyperplasia, it can occur in ectodermal dysplasia, it can happen in fucosidosis, it can happen in familial hypoparathyroidism, it can happen in familial cholestasis syndrome. Another cause is GSD type 1, that is von Girk disease. In Nelson, it has been mentioned as glucose 6-phosphatase deficiency. Then hypothyroidism. Another cause is Klinefelter syndrome, Moriak syndrome, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, prostaglandin E1, that is alprostadil infusion. They can sometimes, change the word and it may look like a new option in your paper. Pseudo-hypoaldosteronism, protein energy malnutrition. So this is the list where false positive sweat chloride test has been there. The ones which I mentioned in the red color, they have been directly or indirectly asked in not only NEET super specialty exam, but other entrance exams, including the NEET PG ones as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to teach you NEET PG level stuff, but you must understand that there are certain things which are, flexible, and questions, options do move in between your different entrance exams. So these are the key points. The red ones you must remember, other ones also important to be remembered for exam. So false positive sweat chloride test. Similarly, we have false negative sweat chloride test, which is relatively easy. So false negative sweat chloride test, only a handful of things. False negative will mean patient has cystic fibrosis, but sweat chloride test is negative. That is, the amount is less than 30 milligrams per liter. So it includes, first of all, dilution. Second, protein energy malnutrition. So malnutrition can produce both false positive as well as false negative. They can make a MCQ in your exam. You can write it as a one-liner in whatever notes you are making or whatever flashcards you are making, if many of you are fond of making flashcards. So for quick revision, you can remember which of the following is a cause of both false positive and false negative sweat chloride test. The answer will be protein energy malnutrition. Then edema. Then hyponatremia will produce a false negative sweat chloride test. And then insufficient sweat quantity. If the sweat is not collected in amount properly, then obviously the amount of sweat chloride level can be less. And then CFTR mutations with preserved sweat duct function. If you look at the table of Nelson, they have only mentioned about this word, CFTR mutations with preserved sweat duct function. So the next logical question becomes, what are the CFTR mutation where patient has cystic fibrosis, but the sweat glands are not, but the sweat gland function is normal, and so you will not have a raised sweat chloride level. There are two mutations that you need to remember, very important from NEET SS as well as INI SS point of view. So first is 3849 plus 10 kb C2T mutation, and second is arginine to 117 his 70 mutation. These are the two mutations where there will be a false negative sweat chloride test. That is, sweat duct function will be preserved, but the patient will still have cystic fibrosis. This is very, very important. Please mention it. If you are reading directly from Nelson, take a sticky note and attach it there itself.